In relation to this election, the people of the UK need to remember this all-important fact. For the reasons set out in the two earlier documentaries from the Global Fund, we can ignore completely the presence of the Labour Party. In the same way we saw the banning and outlawing of the Nazi Party from politics in Germany after World War II, Labour is in exactly the same position now. There are serious crimes outstanding inside and outside of Great Britain which require accountability from individuals as well as the Labour Party itself. The party has forfeited the right to seek office in Great Britain in any capacity. Read the open letter from the Voice of the World to Tony Blair in February 2002. The last two paragraphs took the following form, and I quote, "Finally, although we have never met, I would like to say to you as a friend, distance yourself from the current aggressive policy being exhibited by the administration in the United States. It would be a sad outcome indeed if you allowed yourself and your government to be dragged down by certain covert actions by the executive in the United States to the extent that it could end up costing you the ultimate price of the loss of government in Great Britain. The colonialism and the imperialism of the 19th and 20th centuries has to stop. Great Britain and Western powers have extracted enough from those countries that have been affected. It is now time to start putting back some of that resource, or the eventual cost to all of us may end up being too much for any of us to bear or to entertain." End of quote. The UK is now legally liable for billions of pounds of loss, damage and reparations to the people and states of Iraq and Afghanistan. The country is legally liable to surviving families of those killed as well as wounded and disabled British servicemen and women for being put in harm's way on false pretences. Only recently, Brown claimed through the Zionist-controlled mass media, and I quote, "We need a new Cold War against terror." End of quote. In other words, perpetual, constant, never-ending war. Is this what you want? It would be remiss of me not to mention the case of Lance Corporal Joe Glenton, now in prison. The courage of this man exceeds any so far displayed by any UK or US serviceman. The sentencing judge lied and tried to allege how much Joe Glenton had let the other men in the services down by his conduct. This allegation could not be more wrong or untrue. By making this stand, Lance Corporal Joe Glenton has done a service to every UK and US serviceman and woman which is beyond measure. As it happens, it needed this message to be given to the likes of Blair, Brown, Bush and the Zionist neocons that they have to be stopped. These men signed up and agreed to defend the Constitution and the country they represent against any aggressor. The UK and the US are not under any threat whatsoever from Iraq, Afghanistan or anywhere else, and as a consequence, these men are presently defending nothing and are being placed in harm's way on false pretences. It is now time for the civilian population of the UK to stand up and be counted. Vote on the 6th of May 2010 for an end for all time to the conduct, action and aims of the Labour Party under Brown and the Conservatives under Cameron, and bring your sons and daughters back home before it is too late. You will notice that neither the Labour Party or the Conservatives have even mentioned Iraq or Afghanistan since the election campaign started. You will also notice that a swathe of movies coming out of Hollywood in recent years have all been reinforcing the terrorist card, constantly pushing the Bush-Blair-Brown propaganda of the so-called war against terrorism. Your vote for the Liberal Democrats will break the two-party dictatorship you are presently living under. The Liberal Democrats are the only party who will put an end to this madness and bring your sons and daughters back home before it is too late. Only the Liberal Democrats will be able to wrest back control of your destinies and your future economic well-being from the grip of the economic elite. The international bankers who just turned off the tap of credit and gave you the credit crunch and the worst depression in world history. In doing so, they have transferred trillions from you into their already humongous coffers. Their wealth is unimaginable, and unless you vote the right way on the 6th of May 2010, they, the economic elite, are going to enslave you into economic serfdom for all time. They talk about the deficit. It is nothing but more scare tactics, more gun-at-the-head tactics, the politics of fear, a concerted campaign of intimidation to justify another round of increases in taxation, national insurance, fuel duty, council tax, plus. The escalating price of fuel in the UK is an outrage. Go to chapter 478 to find out why. We are not saying this to frighten you. We are not saying this to intimidate you. We are not saying this and bringing these facts to your attention without having all the hard evidence to support it. The evidence is incontrovertible, and this credit crunch is now full and complete confirmation of what we have been warning you for all of these years was going to happen. This economic elite has the major political parties and the mainstream media in the UK and the US completely in their pockets. That is why you have these two-party dictatorships. Only you can break it. You have to see through all of the propaganda that you are presently getting from the mainstream media before it is too late. Abraham Lincoln tried to stand up to the economic elite, the money changers, with his greenbacks, his interest-free, debt-free greenback US currency. And you saw what happened to him. Bring yourself up to speed on the true record of history where money is concerned. Go to YouTube, search keyword TVOTW888 and view Credit Crunch 2010 in 22 parts. View sequentially, of course. And please keep this very important fact in mind. This work was completed prior to 9/11, prior to Iraq and Afghanistan. So now you can see they've got their perpetual war and the income from it for years to come. Are you going to allow it to continue? If it hasn't already been brought to your attention, people in the UK should not overlook the conspiracy uncovered by the Voice of the World within the BBC. At 7:11 a.m. on Thursday the 23rd of February 2006, an interview took place between James Nockety and Sheikh Yosef al-Nasiri, an intellectual and director of the Shia al-Sadr Center for Research and Study in Iraq. Al-Nasiri made it quite clear that all of the car bombs, all of the acts of terrorism in Iraq were committed by the CIA, obviously acting under the instructions of Bush. However, when the Voice of the World went to the appropriate page on the Radio 4 website, whilst every link to interviews for that day's program were in place, the link for this particular interview, and only this interview, had been removed. This means that no person in the UK or anywhere else in the world, for that matter, can listen to the interview again to obtain full confirmation of this damning evidence against Bush, Blair, Brown and the Zionist neocons. The interview is available at chapter 457 of the main chapter index of The Voice of the World.